Hi everyone, how's it going and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back in Sky Sports Fantasy Football and we're looking at the best players under 7.5 million in the game that are going to get us the good consistent points. It's 4 points every game, getting the bonus points and possibly even some attacking returns as well. So last year we were obviously spoiled with João Palhinha at 6.6 million. He was getting tackle tiers basically every game and he was chipping in with some attacking returns as well. So we're going to look at this year's possible enablers. There's not too much under 7 million this year, so I thought I'd up it to 7.5 and let's get straight into things. So starting us off, we've got Nakamba, who's just newly signed for Luton after playing for them in the Championship last season. And unfortunately he's not been added into the game as of recording this, but I imagine he's going to be a fairly popular pick. I'm expecting his price to be about 6.9 million. I think the most expensive Luton midfielder right now is 6.8. I don't think he's going to be too much cheaper than that, so my guess is he's going to be 6.9, possibly 7 on the dot. But last year he played 17 games for Luton and he averaged 3.8 tackles per game in the Championship. Now, chances are this is massively going to come up in the Premier League due to obviously being tougher opposition, so Luton are going to be in the back foot a lot more, so he's probably going to be getting more tackles, and obviously with tackles tiers being 4 tackles for tier 1, it looks very likely that he will be a good shout for tackle tier. Everything else, not so much, I think. Obviously, goals and assists, he ended up with 0. Shots on target, 0. Passes, not too much, and that's probably going to be less in the Premier League as well. Only picked up 2 cards as well, which is nice. Something with Palhinha last year, he was getting suspended because of him getting so many cards. And obviously, we've got his heat map there as well, really about the centre of the pitch. So Nakamba, if he's about 6.9 tackles tier, he's probably going to be very popular. Plus, obviously, it gives us a captain for Luton versus West Ham in I think game week 3. So he's probably going to end up being a very popular pick off the start. So next up then we have Nade from Sheffield United. Now he's listed as a midfielder at 7.2 million, but I think he kind of plays like a Embuemo type position. As you can see by the heat map there, he can play on the wings and through the middle. And in the Championship last season he had 14 goals and 10 assists, which could make him a very good player this year. Obviously being listed as a midfielder. If he was listed as a striker he'd probably not be as popular, but obviously you get the extra goal points from him being a midfielder. Selected by 1.42%, which is actually fairly high considering the players at that price point. And then shots, tackles, passes, probably not really going to be getting those tiers. I think you're really going to be picking him for the goals and assists. He's also on penalties for Sheffield as well, which is going to increase the chances of people wanting to get him, purely because most of Sheffield's goals are probably going to go through him in some way. 6 cards, however, last season, which is quite a lot for a midfielder or attacking player. But again, it's not going to be a big issue really. I think Ndai is just going to be one of those players that's probably going to be good for the single game days. Would I have him off the start? Probably not. I think there's better options, but again, when the single games days come around, he's definitely going to be one to consider. Next up we have Basuma for Spurs. Now this is probably my favourite pick of all the players under 7.5 million. He's 7.3, which for an enabler is quite expensive, and you're probably going to end up having to go for like 2 around that price rather than having one solid cheap pick. Only selected by 0.46% so far. But the reason I feel like he's going to be great this season is because purely of Postecoglou's style of play. Now, Basuma will be playing centre mid for Spurs, maybe defensive mid, but Ange has already said that he will be a massive part of his team this season. And if we look at his Celtic team last year, Callum McGregor played the same role as Basuma does. And there was games where McGregor was picking up 120 plus passes. Obviously this is for Celtic, which is gonna be like a much more dominant team in the league, and they're going to be keeping the ball a lot more. But I think just the way Ange plays in general, Spurs are going to be keeping a lot of possession, and the midfielders are going to be picking up lots of passes. Now Basuma already, I've got a slash in this one because last season he was injured for quite a lot and didn't do so great under the manager. So the numbers on the left is last season for Spurs. The numbers on the right is his previous season for Brighton under Potter. So we've got 26 games and he averaged 2.9 tackles there as well as 40 passes. So I think Basuma at 7.3, he's going to be getting past here very, very often, as well as tackle tiers as well. So I think for me, I think he's going to be definitely in my game week 1 team. Now my final pick of this video, I've went for Christian Norgard for Brentford at 6.9 million, which is a big drop in price since last season. The season previous to that, 2021, Norgard was a very popular pick for a lot of players as an enabler because he was picking up tackles quite a lot, as well as the occasional shot tier. And I don't think he was actually getting passes, but the occasional shots and tackle tier quite often. Then he got put up to 7.8 million last season, so no one really had him whatsoever. But now this season he's back down again, only selected by 0.38%, and I think at 6.9 million he could be a very, very good player. Even though he was 7.8 last year, he was still picking up a lot of tackles. He was just looked over because of his price tag. Was averaging 2.4 tackles last season as well, 6 cards throughout the season, and as well as getting a goal and a couple assists as well. So Norgard makes the 4th pick, and again he's one of those players. He can get the attacking returns, and as well as picking up tackle tiers, which seems to be about 1 every 3 games, maybe 2 every 3 games. So he got it quite often, especially towards the end of the season there. And at 6.9 million, he's one of those that's under 7 million, and you could get away with only having 1 enabler with him, obviously being one of the cheaper ones. So Christian Norgard makes it, and that's pick number 4. So finishing things off then, we've got 4 honourable mention picks here. And these are players I think that could end up being really good, but I wouldn't have them off the start. It depends how it goes for them. We're starting off with Ahmed from Crystal Palace, 6.5 million mid, so he's up there with the cheapest players in the game. And he's got 2 goals and an assist in pre-season so far, so he could climb his way into the starting 11 for Palace this year. And he's not going to be one for bonus, so he's going to be a bit of a gamble. You need him to be scoring for him to get points or getting assists. And obviously with Zaha on his way out as well, he could easily make his way into the 11. But I don't think he's going to be a pick off the start because we don't know how he's going to perform in the Premier League. And again, as I said, he's probably not going to be getting the consistent points. You're just going to be hoping for a goal and assist every now and then. Next up is Kevin Shade from Brentford, another 6.5 million mid. And now the thing with him is obviously Tony will not be playing for Brentford for the first half of this season, and they're yet to sign another striker. So if Mbeumo doesn't get played up front, Kevin Shade's probably the guy to play in the striker role for Brentford. Shade's also like a winger technically, which is why he is down as a midfielder this year. So he might not even play. He could be one of those guys that just comes off the bench, maybe at striker every now and then. And obviously Brentford could also sign a striker between now and the end of the transfer window. So again, I wouldn't start with Kevin Shade, but he's one to watch. He's someone that you can keep an eye on if he starts getting regular game time, even as a winger. It could still be a very good pick at 6.5 mil. Next up is a bit of a long shot. It's James Milner, who's now transferred to Brighton. 6.6 million he's listed at. And obviously he's in the honourable mentions because we don't actually know how much game time he's going to be getting, because he could just be one of those players that sits on the bench. You know, he's there to mentor the younger players in the squad. But as I've got here, you can see on the graphic, it could possibly be on the penalties for Brighton. Obviously they've already got some good penalty takers in Gross. João Pedro could be on them. Estupinan could also be on them. But Milner's there again just as an honourable mention. I don't think he's a good pick, especially off the start, but again we can see what his game time ends up being, and obviously a few games into the season we can see who Brighton's main penalty taker is going to be. But he's there just to keep an eye, obviously as one of the cheaper guys, and if he gets game time he could be very interesting. And then finally the last pick of the video is Carlton Morris from Luton, a 7.1 million striker, the main striker for Luton this season, at least until maybe they sign another one. But for now, 7.1 million. He scored 20 goals and got 7 assists in the Championship last year. So obviously he knows how to score goals. But is he going to do it in the Premier League? We don't know yet. What makes him a good pick is because obviously he's 7.1 million, so he's fairly cheap for a main starting striker who could be scoring regular goals. And obviously he's got a single game day, as I said with Nakamba earlier, so he could make it a good captain for that day. But obviously there is no game in game week 2 for Luton and Burnley, obviously with that game being postponed. Therefore, if you're going to pick him, you need to know that he's not going to be playing in game week 2. But as a 7.1 million enabler, you could probably get away with that, to be honest, if you really want a captain for the Luton West Ham game. But obviously it does take up a striker spot as well. It's quite difficult to get a good striker in this season anyways, so if you're wanting to go maybe Haaland, Awoniyi to cover the Forest singles, and then Morris, that could also work. But again, he's an honourable mention because I don't think he's one that should be started with. Maybe he's a bit of a wait and see for me. But yeah, so that rounds off the video then. Let me know in the comments the enabler you're going to pick, or you look like picking for your game week 1 team. For me personally, Basuma's going to be the guy, and I might end up going with 2, and then depending on Nakamba's price, it'll probably be Basuma and Nakamba, because I think there's a lot of players at the higher price range that I'd like to get in the team. So 2 enablers might be the answer for me, but as I said, let me know in the comments who you're looking at picking. If this video helped you in any way, please leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one.